You're in the Warriors Huddle with me, Bram. No Marcus today, but joining me per usual, my master of all things video and sound, Maxime.
How's it going?
Maxime, I am fired up to announce that rejoining us after way too long, Yahoo Sports college and NBA guru, a draft insider who has spent countless seasons developing more background, relationships, experience, and knowledge than anyone, anywhere within the sports media landscape, a real hoophead who probably covered the rise of your favorite NBA star before you even knew their name, and the newest and apparently most distinguished member of Utah's hiking scene, Miss Krysten Peek. What's going on, KP?
Wasatch Wednesdays. It's where it's at, you guys. Most people in during the off season, they go to Europe. They go to a nice island. I don't know what the Warriors did this year, or they're in LA doing NBA runs at UCLA. No, what did I do? I'm like, well, I'm in Utah, so I might as well take up hiking, and that's what I did.
I mean, let's set the bar a little bit higher, Kristen. Here is a text I have in front of me. Quote, I'm telling you, ... taking up hiking this summer supersedes any dating story I've ever had in Utah. As somebody who has basically helped host the KP's dating podcast in Utah, that's a high bar, man. So, I mean, what's going on?
Okay. All right. First hike I ever went on with this group. It's literally like it's a whole thing on Facebook. There's like 4,500 people that are part of this group. Only about 15 really show up every Wednesday. So I like show up and it's raining, and me and my bougie self, I'm like, well, clearly we're not gonna hike in the rain. Wrong. We're like 3 miles in on this hike, and it's probably like 8 miles round trip. And this isn't just like a stroll in the park. These guys are like actual like hardcore hikers. I didn't know this. So we're 3 miles in and it's like pouring rain. And then it starts lightning and I'm like, what is going on? And the guide, the main guy that like leads the whole group, he's like, oh, nothing like a summer storm.
No.
And I'm like, are these people nuts? Why are we still hiking? And I was like, I'm going to turn back around. And so then I had to hike 3 more miles down the canyon in the rain. But that's not the story. Bram, you know the story. I want to tell everyone.
I have too many follow-ups. Okay, we'll get to that second story. On this first one, so you decide you were the only person who turns around 3 miles in.
Well, no. This other guy decided to turn around because he didn't want me hiking alone, which is a good segue to the next story. But
you mean that other guy decided to try to hit on you and walked back with you. So I'm anxious to see like how that ultimately played out. But when you returned to the group in between whatever we're going to find out about that guy who followed you back, is it hard to rejoin a group of hikers who you've just been like, no, fuck you, I'm turning around. This is way too serious, and 3.5 miles is too long to be in thunderstorms?
No, because they're all from Utah and they all are like the happiest people in the entire world. They're just like, okay, nice to meet you. See you next week. And I'm just like, all right, crazy people. I guess we're doing this.
All right, give us the second half of the story.
Okay. So then the next week, you have to understand in Utah, there's 3 separate canyons for like skiing and hiking, right? And there's Mill Creek Canyon. Once you get into Mill Creek Canyon, you lose all cell service, okay? The next canyon over is called Big Cottonwood Canyon. You still have cell service there. And then the next one farthest down is Little Cottonwood Canyon. You have cell service there. So of course, this hike is in Mill Creek. And I'm like driving up there and I lose all cell service. But whatever, we're hiking this hike called Dog Lake. And I was like, oh, great, Gary, maybe I can bring him up here sometime. So there's no parking. We're already waiting like 20 extra minutes for people to start. And I was like so annoyed. So I was like, okay, I'm going to get a head start. So I start with this other girl. We hike to Dog Lake. It's 3 miles to the lake. And then everyone else started like trickling in. And I was just like so annoyed because I actually wanted to it made me start to miss Gary. And so my dog. So I was like, I'm going to leave early and get back down. And I said, what's the fastest way down? They're like, okay, you go this way and then you turn left and it'll take you right back to the cars. And I was like, great. So I take off by myself. And mind you, this is a night hiking group. We start at 6 o'clock and it like the sun's out until about 8:30. And so I'm like, it's 7-ish. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna make it back in record time, whatever. So I start hiking back down. Side note, I did not turn left, kept going straight. And I'm like 2.5 miles down the mountain. And all of a sudden my phone dings and I was like, oh, that's weird. I have service again. And I look and then I look down and I was like, oh, I don't recognize that road. Weird. I must be close. So I open up my map. I'm on the other side of the canyon.
Oh my God.
2.5 miles. And so then a runner is coming down the mountain and I stop him and I was like, is there another way back to the Mill Creek parking lot? And he's just like, what? No, you have to go back up to Dog Lake and then back down the other side. And I was like, oh God. Okay. So then I like call my sister-in-law and I was like, I have one bar and I was like, hey, it's going to be another 3 hours. Can you go get Gary? If you don't hear from me by 11 o'clock, and then it clicked.
No.
Yeah. So I start booking it back up to Dog Lake so I can hike the 3 miles down to my car in the dark. All I have is my cell phone flashlight. I'm by myself. So then I get up to Dog Lake and I see 2 other headlamps. And this is where people are like, oh, KP, stranger danger. I was thinking, oh my gosh, other people, they have headlamps.
Yeah.
Great. They were 2 guys. So I was like, hey, and they had 2 dogs. I was like, hey, are you guys going back down this way? They're like, yeah. They're like, oh, are you the white Tesla? We parked right next to you. I was like, great. So then we start hiking down and they have light, they have dogs. They're very nice people. And they're like, what do you do, Krysten? And I said, oh, I'm a sports writer. What do you cover? The NBA. One of the guys goes, is your last name Peek? And I was like, what? And he goes, I read your stuff all the time. I'm like, what is happening of all the people? And then the other guy ended up being a Warriors fan. So I was telling him about your guys' podcast. So he's like, well, now I have to listen. And I said, yeah, it's great. I go on there and I talk about how horrible Utah is. Definitely listen to this podcast.
Is he from Utah?
Yes. Derek and Greg were their names. They were so nice and lovely and normal and not stranger danger at all. But a 6-mile hike ended up being 12 miles. And I called my sister-in-law at 10:58. And she's like, I was getting worried. I didn't know what to do. Okay. So moral of the story, stay with the group. Stay with the group.
Don't you wrap it up as if I don't have a bunch of follow-up questions. Let's start here. Derek and Greg, which one is the Warrior fan?
Greg. Greg is the Warriors fan.
Greg, we clearly prefer you. You are a very good person. And if I've ever said anything bad about Utah in the past, I immediately take it back. You realize that you're lost, right? Or I mean, I guess you didn't even realize you see on your phone now. I am way past.
I'm the idiot. I thought my phone was wrong. I was like, no, that blue dot can't be me.
What are you, like Pocahontas? Like, how would you know how the hell you were without your phone, dude? So when that happens, when suddenly satellites confirm you've been going the wrong direction, panic? Like, what happens for you? Because now that we know you're fine, right. It's a fun story. But when it's happening, that's terrifying, man. Like, how does that play out for you?
Okay, I will say this, and this is horrible. It got to I had plenty of water, I had food, I had a jacket. I had bug spray. The only thing I didn't have was light, and that can get really trippy when you're hiking in the dark. So when it gets dark in Utah in the mountains, it gets dark. Like, you think this little flashlight or whatever is like powerful when you're in your room and it like blinds you in the eye by accident. No, it does nothing in the mountains. So that, like, when I got back to Dog Lake where I was originally and it was pitch black, it was like 9:15, 9:30. I had this one thought where I didn't see the 2 other guys yet. I thought, I know where I am here. I know I'm safe-ish. Yep. Maybe I just sleep here under the stars.
Yep.
But then it's like, okay, what about wildlife? Like, what sort of wildlife is out here? Am I going to get eaten alive by bugs? And then I tell my sister-in-law that. She's like, what? You were going to spend the night by yourself in the mountains with no cell service? I'm like, yeah, that's pretty stupid. No, won't ever do that again.
I feel you though, Krysten, because what you'd be worried about is if I start walking, what if I'm just putting myself deeper into problems? Like, if I don't know where I'm going, the only place worse than being in this parking lot is being in a spot that nobody can find me, without any reception. Like, fuck that. I support the call. There is a better than 50% chance Maxime is hearing this, and it just sounds like an incredible vacation to him. Like that, like that's the kind, like he would purposely get lost in the mountains so that he could experience this. Whereas for me, love hiking, on board for it across everything. I'm such a control freak that getting lost, what a nightmare. Like there's no way I would enjoy that. Maxime, am I off, or does this sound like just a solid evening?
Yeah, I went through all that thought process as this was going down, and I do think at the end of it, showing back up at Dog Lake at 9 o'clock at night and it being pitch black before you see the other headlamps, that would not be a great time. And I think I would have come to the same conclusion. But my question is, Kirsten, do you now know like what wildlife are we talking about around the Bay Area? We're worried about like mountain lions, and there's legitimate fears. But even just getting eaten alive by bugs would be pretty shitty.
I know. And that we had already seen, like I had already seen a couple deer on my way back up to Dog Lake. And then I've seen in past hikes, because people are like, I can't believe you're still hiking. Like some people be like, I'm never hiking again. And I'm like, well, let's go next week. Where are we going? But we've seen moose, we've seen coyotes and mountain lions. Yeah.
Oh
so
my
not
seen mountain lions. Hold on. What the hell did you start that list with deer for? Of all
those
the
are
things
like
that
those
you've
are like
seen,
the cute
when you
ones.
said deer, I was like, oh, she's never seen anything. You've seen a fucking mountain lion out there and you continue to hike?
Yeah, they're far away. And like I said, when you stay with the group, which is now the mantra forever and ever, I send a picture of the group picture to my brother and sister all the time in a group text in all caps. And I'm like, I stayed with the group.
You absolutely should. Let the record reflect that if I saw like a banana slug, I may not leave the group. So you are absolutely more brave than me. Final hiking question. And I'm going to bring us all the way back to the first hike you told us about. So that dude decides, you say, look, I don't want to do this. 3 hours, I'm going back. That guy says, I don't want you to be alone. I'm going to walk with you. When you heard that, were you annoyed? Like if it's me, now I have to talk to that person for the next 3 hours.
I just wanted to I wanted to put my AirPods in and not listen to him or like pretend that I care who he is and get to know him. But then I was stuck like, oh, where are you from? Oh,
yeah.
Canada. That's interesting.
Well,
What
you
do
have to pretend
do?
like you
Pharmacy?
appreciate it too. You know, like, oh, like you're coming with me. But meanwhile, I don't need you. I don't need
know,
this
and
at all. I
he
felt
was
totally comfortable.
he was like, oh, look at this flower. This is so and so. Look at this plant. And he was like picking and I'm just like, shut up, dude. Can we please get back to the car?
Dude, by the second time he identified a plant, I'm like, you know what? Let's just catch up to the group. Like it is what it is. Like it's an 8-hour hike. Like fine. Like how would I pay you $10,000 to never identify another plant as we walk back to this fucking car? If that's okay.
Off season. Well, and then I told you guys I hiked a mountain, right? And like it was great. And I was by far the best one because I was in hiking shape. But out of the 5 girls that came with us, one of them, she's never hiked a day in her life. She was a first-time hiker. And we hiked 16 miles up a freaking mountain. And I'm just like, by on our way down, 3 miles down, like left, I was like, I'm out. And I just flipped it to the car. I'm like, I don't care about this girl anymore. And they're like, oh, your patience must have really been tested. And I was like, yeah, I was MFing her under my breath the entire time while my sister-in-law and her friend were like, you're doing great. Good job. And I'm like, the worst friend ever. Like, God, can we go?
You're doing great for someone I hate. You know, good job by going hella slowly. I think we know I can associate with that in a heartbeat. Maxime, you're going to join the group? Do you think you can get out to Utah and start exploring the hills the way that Kristen has, or what?
Wasatch Wednesdays, Maxime.
I'm down. This sounds great, but I will be staying with the group.
Yes, that is the lesson we've all learned this off season. Is always stay with the group.
I was interested till you told me about all the dangerous deer out there. And then I decided could not go in that direction. Let's talk basketball, you guys. So Kristen, we've been doing kind of the same types of segments during the off season. I got a golden question that was written specifically for you. And then I've got a couple of nope, yep questions that I don't think we've done with you, but the idea behind it isn't in particularly complicated. I'll basically give you a question and you answer either yep or no. But before we get there, so we always have you on. We always briefly talk about how you've covered all these people before they get anywhere close to the NBA, but we never really get to explore it, right? Because it's a Warriors show. And so collegiate or prep hoop isn't normally our focus. We've got some space today. It's an off-season episode. So I've got all these things that have kind of been floating around in my mind since we've had you on, but I never got a chance to ask them to you. So let's jump in. And here's the first. When you're evaluating a prospect, In fact, here, let's set up a little foundation, a little setup. How long have you been doing this? How long have you been covering prep basketball?
10 years.
Okay. So after a decade, right? After watching a decade's worth of younger players come through gyms and seeing what plays out and what doesn't, now when you go in and evaluate a player, what are you looking for? Like what sticks out for you that telegraphs, oh, this guy or girl has a real bright future?
Well, we are now seeing it in the NBA. Length. How long they are. And also if you have that length, how skilled you are with your hands. Like if you can be super tall, but if you can't catch the basketball or do anything off the dribble, then you are a waste of space. So you're looking at length. You're looking at also just upside in terms of this sounds horrible for me to say, especially as a female evaluating young men, but just like youth features, right?
Hmm.
So if they still look their age, because sometimes we see a kid and we're like, there's no way he's 16. He looks like he's 24. So because then that there's still more room for growth. So you're looking at that.
Wow.
You're looking at coachability. You're looking at, do they have that dog mentality? Like how tough are they really? And then defending or defensive wise, can they guard multiple positions, or are they just strictly a 5 or strictly a point guard? Because to be successful now, not only at the collegiate level, but the NBA level, you got to have versatility. So those are kind of like the benchmarks.
Tell me more about youth features, because I was going to ask you, how do you know when you can do the evaluation? Because some of these guys, they'll grow 4 inches suddenly between like freshman and sophomore year. Are there tools in your bag? I mean, it sounds like it. It sounds like you're looking.
There are, and they're like really stupid things like facial hair or even like hair on the legs or stuff like that. Like just stupid stuff where you can see that they're maturing quicker than their peers, right? So I don't know.
But it also sounds like you don't want them to look like a grizzled vet either, because it suggests that they're still,
that they're
a couple more
plateauing.
inches. Like,
exactly.
How quickly can you tell? For like the LeBrons of the world, or we don't have to go generational talent, for people who are going to be real difference makers in the NBA. How quickly can you tell when you see them at the lower level? Oh, this person is going to make a difference.
Well, history has shown that we're getting it wrong more than we're getting it right? Like you look at Imani Bates, you look at Mikey Williams, those guys were highly touted as 14, 15-year-olds, and they got too overhyped too soon. And we see that. I mean, I would even say a little bit with Bronny. Bronny was a little bit overhyped, especially going into this freshman year. And thank God he's going to be okay. And it looks like he's going to hit the court at some point this season. But putting these expectations on these players at such a young age is so reckless. And I'm even dealing it now. Like you guys know this, I'm in Las Vegas checking out the G League Ignite. They've got 8 young guys that are draft eligible this year, 2 that, different mock drafts have them, myself included, in the top 5, top 3 spots. And watching them the last couple days, it's like, okay, maybe they need a little bit more development than we thought. So it's almost like it's damned if you do, damned if you don't. You always want to say, oh yeah, I was right about him. I was right. But everyone knew Zion Williamson was going to be Zion Williamson. What we saw from him, in his sophomore, junior year in high school, like that stuff, you just know. But were we wrong about Marvin Bagley? Were we wrong about Harry Giles? Yes, because injuries got the best of them and they're not necessarily panning out in the NBA. I would even go to say that we were wrong about Trae Young, because we looked at him only for his size only and not what he could do off the dribble and how quickly he could get shots off. So there's always going to be those players that we miss on. But yeah, like Victor Wembanyama, Scoot Henderson, Zion Williamson, like Luka Doncic, like those are surefire. You cannot miss on those type of guys.
Have you ever seen expectations either hurt or help somebody? Like you watch a player, you develop your own opinion, then somebody else puts them in a top 5 list. They shouldn't be there. Have you seen them, their self opinion goes up higher than it should, or when it doesn't work out, their disappointment that they didn't meet it? I mean, how do these expectations impact the actual play on the floor, do you think?
It 100% impacts every aspect of their game, every aspect of their recruitment, because once they get overhyped by media or different people, like, you have to understand, it's like if one blue blood, if a high major team offers Cooper Flag, then it's the domino effect. And Cooper is as good as I think people think he is. And so that's not going to be a problem. But the same thing happened with Imani Bates when he was being called the next Kevin Durant, the greatest thing since LeBron James. Then it's like, okay, his dad took control, shut everyone out, shut everyone down, started making horrible decisions for his future, reclassing up to go play for Penny Hardaway. That didn't work out. Transferring to Eastern Michigan, he gets caught with the gun charges in his car. That didn't work out. He didn't have a great season. He ended up being a second-round pick, had a great summer league, but he wasn't that bona fide star that we all thought he was going to be at 14 and 15.
So this next one, you can keep names out. All right.
Okay.
But what always entertains me is the recruiting process, because we're talking millions, tens of millions of dollars, maybe hundreds of millions of dollars, depending on the player. You land somebody, and now, it not only solidifies the coach's job going forward, but is bringing in unbelievable money for that athletic department. And so when they're recruiting these players, ostensibly, I imagine, we're giving you a free education. But everybody knows it's way, way, way more than that, and movies like He Got Game or documentaries everywhere have me all excited for like the nasty underbelly of this. What kind of shady shit is offered to these guys to get their name on the dotted line? So going back to where I started this long ass question, no names. We're not throwing anyone under the bus, no specifics, nothing like that, but just generalities. What is some of the shady stuff you've seen as far as like recruitment violations and, that storyline?
I mean, I'll say this. The fact that NIL is now so prevalent in recruiting these days, and it's still, I think, the wild, wild west. Violations, it's a gray area because they can disguise it with NIL opportunity. And so we're not going to hear those shady stories from different universities and what the hoops they jump through to get that certain player.
Sure.
But
yeah.
I mean, I think shady to me is the things that schools do to get the kids, the players, the high recruit players, not to go to a different school. So the way that they bash other coaches and other universities to try to make themselves look better. And like that can go one or two ways. That can backfire, and that player and that family can be like, well, you guys are assholes. No other team did this except you. Like, we're going to go to this university because they're tried and true. But gosh, I mean, back in the day, you used to see like shoebox deals happening, handshake deals. Like you're not allowed to talk to players during certain dead periods, but a certain coach just happened to show up at a top level recruit's mom's restaurant, 2,000 miles out of the way, and just happened to be in town. So it's like stuff like that, and over giving a tip, like tipping 500% on a meal. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So little stories like that. But I haven't heard many recently about, shady stuff, because there's so many different opportunities with NIL.
Well, and if you are the NC2A or any collegiate governing body, you want to make it as gray as possible, not black and white, so that, stars continue to come to your league and you're not having major scams or major stories go everywhere. So that makes perfect sense to me. Maxime, if you were a like 5-star top flight, everybody wants you recruit, would you play it like right, and just go to the school that recruited you as legally as possible? Or would you be susceptible to the shoebox filled with, I don't know, 7-8 figures?
I 100% would be. I think the thing that's interesting about this, and kind of to KP's point, is I feel like especially when you're in high school, it's also so much about the parents and like that relationship, and like my parents for sure would be by the book. Like, oh, they badmouth you, we're definitely not going there. And I would be the one that was kind of wanting to take the money. So I think a lot of my moral values were set in that period where things are now flipped for me. But yeah, high school me, I'm taking that shoebox.
There's a 30 for 30 podcast out right now about some recruiting violations I've been listening to. They did a great job with it. And what they left me with, the impression I had, was that if you're not cheating, you're not trying. And that if you really want to have big name recruits come in and bless your campus, you better be coming out of pocket and be ready to give them the kind of upsides that they expect. And so if I was in that environment and everybody's getting paid, man, including the university I'm going to, would I be willing to take that? Yes, I would. So, to nobody's surprise. How about you, Krysten? I see you play. Neither answer would surprise me. You are hella competitive, and I can see you doing the look, this is the game I found. I am adding a lot to your program. Let's get those benefits. Or I can see the other side of you just playing it straight. These are the rules. I didn't make them up, but I'll play by them.
All right. Well, if this was Krysten back in high school, and like you said, if my parents were making the decisions, it would be by the book. Now being in grassroots and seeing how things really operate and seeing who gets what, and if I'm a top recruit and I know that this player got so and such money and such promised to him or her, and I'm better than them, then I want to be compensated
Let's go
more, or even to the point of that. You know what I mean? Like, I can remember, I'll tell you guys a story without saying any names or alluding to anything, but there was a head coach, a college head coach, and he was asking me about some player who was a top player. He ended up going to a different school. He's like, KP, how much do you think they paid him? What did they promise him? I was like, I heard it was this much. And the head coach turned to his sister. He's like, we lost out on so-and-so to this place for that. Are you kidding me? Like, that's a joke.
How well known are the numbers? If you don't, again, you don't have to give me numbers, but
so the numbers, like I said, like it's all now all by the book because of NIL. But I saw I think it was The Athletic. There were 2 writers at The Athletic that polled different universities and different coaches, and they said, okay, if you're a top 10 prospect, how much are you expecting to get in NIL money at a Power 5 conference or whatever? And it was, I think, and this might be for football. I don't know if this is for basketball as well, but it was like 300,000 for the top players. And then all the way down to, a 4-star, whatever, was making 100K, 75K.
Wow.
So
that's
there's
still
a lot. There's a lot of money to be made in the NIL space.
Last question in this place. How emotionally invested do you get? And so we've got peaks, right? I know I've asked you about the draft. I've asked you about after draft, where you've come in, and I loved your response because I can associate with it, where you make sure the player sees you in their NBA arena, but you may not be in the crowd once the game starts. You may get the hell out of there and go do something else, right? So after you've covered a player, is there an emotional connection with them? Like, do you continue to follow them along and I don't know, have some dog in their fight?
Of course I do, Bram. Do you not know me? I have no life. I watch basketball and I hang out with Gary, and now apparently I hike in the off season. That's it. So the more players that make the NBA, the more I'm watching at the high school level, at the college level, and now the NBA level. So I'm fully invested, right? To the point where it's I get offended when players that I've known since they were 14, when they unfollow me on social media. I'm like, I thought,
oh, you should be.
We were cool.
Hell yeah. That would hell have bothered me.
Caleb and Carol, what did I ever do to you? Why'd you unfollow me?
I've been looking for a place to drop this text in. Let's do it now. Quote, text, while everyone else is out barbecuing and spending time with family today, I'm in the gym checking out potential #1 pick, Matas Bruzelis.
Good job.
I even added a flair to the pronunciation.
He's from Chicago, but it's fine. I know it's a tricky name because his parents are Lithuanian, or his dad is. And so he has a Lithuanian name, but he is born and raised in Chicago, played high school ball at Sunrise Christian in Kansas. So he's as American as they come.
If you could have paused right in between me saying it and you saying good pronunciation and then asked me, where do you think he's from? I don't know how many guesses it would have taken before I said Chicago, but I don't if you had been like Chicago, Lithuania, I'm like, I didn't know there was a Chicago out there. Like, that made hell of sense. So shocking. And I'll have everybody know that when this text was exchanged and Maxine was on it, they gave me just merciless shit about my inability to pronounce the last name. And I think I came close. So yes. F both of you, I was right there. All right, to our Warriors. Okay. So nope. Yeah. Krysten, easy segment. I'm going to give you a question. You answer it with either a yep or a nope. We're going to be dealing with your experience with the Warriors, younger players. So, I got a Kuminga question for you, but I'm going to start here. Okay. Will Moses Moody average a combined 15 points and rebounds next season? What do you think?
So you're saying like 8 points,
7
rebounds?
8. Yeah. And any combination that would get him above 15. Do you think the average will get above that number? To give you time to think, because I'm springing this on you. Maxime, what do you got? Yep or nope on that?
Yeah, to give her time to think, you're springing it on me. Nice. I appreciate that. It's all a question of time spent.
Maxime, he just explained the game. Yep or nope, and you're going on.
Let's go. Love KP.
Yep.
Nope.
Give me more. Why? Why no?
You got Chris Paul coming in, right? Like he's going to be more of the secondary guy. You're not going to disrupt anything with the Clay and Steph thing in the backcourt. And so I feel like with Chris, yes, that's going to open up opportunities for Moses on the perimeter to shoot. But also I think there are other guys that will probably have more touches than Moses in the secondary offense.
This is a perfect transition to something I've been thinking about, but didn't plan on asking. And I'm really glad you said that, because I know you know the game. We've set that up, but Chris Paul specific, and shit, you just went to his camp. So
I did.
You've been in his headspace recently. I am in the process of talking myself into being a giant CP3 fan, right? Looking for any rock I can uncover and then look for positivity. That's what I'm doing. Here's where I've stumbled onto. We focus only on the first and the last portions of his career. We don't look at the middle part. And I think the middle part is where he could help us the most. In the front part, that's the CP3 God, point guard portion. That's when he's in New Orleans and he's establishing all the things that made him a legend. He's not there anymore. In the last part, it was title chasing. We saw him do it in Houston. We saw him do it more recently in Phoenix, where he's asked to play a pretty large role on a team that has really high expectations. I'm not sure that's where he's going to go either in this next one. In between, he goes to OKC, where they had no expectations. The reason he was there is that the Clippers just tried to give him up. They wanted Paul George. He's on a young team without real high expectations, and he spends that time developing their youth, being a leader, pushing them forward. And suddenly this team that nobody thought shit about was on the doorstep during the playoffs, and it became this really important springboard. That's why the last part of Chris Paul's career happened. Suddenly we all remembered who the hell he was, and the contenders came back calling. That's, Krysten, what we need for the second unit. Second half, second portion of the career, Paul. And so when you start talking about Moses, and I got a question for JK, what I'm hoping is that that's who CP3 wants to be, that he can come in and really make a difference with this second unit and then, close out games for us. Am I being ridiculous with that? Is that me trying too hard? Is that possible?
No, it's not. And like, here's the thing I'll say about Chris Paul. Okay. Don't act like he's not coming to the Warriors, still ring chasing, because that's exactly what he's doing.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, fair.
But
Yep.
he understands, like, he's a lot older. What is he, 38? So he understands, like, his role is going to be, he's not going to be the guy. And I think he's gotten to a point where he's fine with that.
Yep.
And the thing I'll say with Moses and JK is, Chris is great. Like, he's got his team CP3. He's always at Peach Jam. He's always trying to pour into these kids, and try to enrich his wisdom of all the years that he's had in the NBA as a primary ball handler. But when you look at where Mo and JK are in their NBA career, I don't know if they fit that youth mold. Like, there might be some power struggle in the sense it's like, we're not rooks anymore, bro.
Yeah.
Like, you don't come in here and tell us what we're due. Like, we've been in this system longer than you have. Like, even though he is a long-term NBA vet, there might be a little bit of struggle. Like, hello, we saw it with Draymond and JP.
Yep.
It's
they don't want to be patted on the head. They don't need attaboys right now.
Right. But I do think Chris he's a great leader. He's not, I know people think he's so hot-headed because he's always complaining to the rest about every single call. But in the sense where it's like, I've seen him behind closed doors and how much he loves this game and how much he wants to try to pour into other players. Like, he brought, like, at his CP3 camp, it was only guards, right? Like, it was a guard focused camp. but he brought NBA players to come scrimmage against these high school and college players. So they had like 5-on-5 runs with DeMar DeRozan, Kobe White was there. Who else was there? It was him, Devin Booker. So it was like, I mean, it was good talent.
Yeah.
None of his Warriors teammates were there, who were also
I'm not sure you had to point
the
that out.
off season in Los Angeles, but you know, not saying anything about that. You guys, I'm not a Warriors expert. I don't know anything about.
I mean, you're still talking about it. We picked up the implication. You know, okay, I feel bad.
I don't know anything about the Draymond Chris Paul relationship.
Unbelievable. I mean, I'm trying to be optimistic here. And you already nailed Maxime with a well thought out nope, unfortunately enough. So you don't have to like really break our spirit.
Okay, next yep or nope. I didn't play the rules either, Maxime.
No, you did. You're supposed to answer them. Only because I hope you guys disagree again. We'll start with Maxime. Will JK ever be an all-star? Do you see the face that KP just made? I would bet every dollar I have on the answer I think she's going to give. But Maxime, what do you got?
It breaks my heart to say, but nope.
Nope. There's too much young talent coming up.
I'm not going to say anything else to that. I think you guys are wrong, but I have no reason.
I want to be wrong. I always want to be wrong on stuff like that. I hope I'm wrong.
I think we'll know this
I love
year.
JK.
Yeah, I mean, I think this will be the last time I'm hoarding JK stock.
Yes.
You know, like I'm the last person still buying. I'm looking around for people trying to drop it. But if we don't really see some major steps in the right direction, I think it's about time to let go of the he's going to be an all-star question. But I guess we'll see. Krysten, thank you. I literally, we went to give you, to be a little bit transparent here, we recorded a segment last week. And so I thought today's episode was going to be short. I didn't plan on bothering you for longer than like 20 minutes. And then the second we started talking, I decided not to announce that other segment at all because fuck that other segment. This podcast needs to all be with you. I really appreciate you. I know I'm not alone. For people who need way more Krysten Peek or just Utah hiking in their life, where do they go?
Do you know what? Before we close, I feel like I need to apologize to my mother, Lydia Peek, because I never told her about the hiking story and me getting lost. So, Mom, I'm fine. I'll stay with the group. Don't worry. I learned my lesson. Love you.
And Miss Peek, I don't know, whatever it is, monthly apology needs to be put in here. I didn't think I was going to be dropping F-bombs. I enjoy your daughter's interaction so much. It just gets away from me. I apologize. Hopefully I didn't offend you too badly.
Yeah. But yeah, you can read all my stuff on Yahoo Sports. You can follow me on X, I guess it is now, not Twitter, X and Instagram at Krysten Peek. Yeah. And I got another mock draft dropping. It's officially 2024 NBA mock draft season in September.
Shout out to my boy Greg, who apparently both lives in Utah and listens to the Huddle. Actually, one last follow-up. KP, that first hike, the guy followed you back for the 3 hours. Did he ask you out? Was there any overt, like him trying to weaponize that he walked you back to the car?
Zero chance. I friend zoned him immediately.
Like within the first 5 minutes, like just let him know. Just so you know, where we're walking to right now is friend zone because that's where I parked my car, like something like that. That's hella scandalous. In case you listen, guy, I'm sorry, man. That's messed up. Although making the move of walking back for 3 hours was a little bit desperate on your behalf. For us, you know where to reach us. We're on social media sites everywhere. Instead of listing those, I'll just say if you want to have more from Maxime, he's joining a space program. What, next week, Max? I mean, do you know where you're going with that? Or
well, I need my couple $1 billion first, but yeah, then that's next up.
With that in mind, go Warriors, and hopefully we'll see you real soon.